Okay, we are live. We'll let it breathe just for a moment here. I know a lot of you been hanging in the chat room for hours. We scheduled this stream literally almost 5 hours ago. We could have gone live during the Super Bowl, but that would have been a buzzkill for everybody. Welcome in. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, is it just me, or does it really feel like that game, tonight's game between the Chiefs and the Eagles, ended just the way the NFL wanted it to end?
I think you're right. I think Kansas City saw the scripts and they knew what was coming. A lot of people think the NFL is rigged, and I'm not ready to go that far, but the Super Bowl of all freaking games should not be decided on a referee throwing some ticky-tack, penalty that can go either way. It was an all-time classic Super Bowl. It was such a fun game to watch. I love offense, and I was rooting for Philadelphia, but that was, like you said, a buzzkill and the ultimate, wet blanket on top of a good time.
It's just, I mean, everyone was rooting for the Chiefs to lose that game. We know, but it is just nice to see prowess versus prowess, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
two juggernauts that it's going to go down to the wire. It's going to be blow for blow, and just that extreme competency. Man, I remember those days. I remember when the Broncos were hashtag extreme competency, and we'll see, Zach. Who knows? We'll see. We've got now a head coach with a ring and a quarterback with the ring, so we'll see. But what were some of your takeaways from Chiefs? Unfortunately, defeating the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's such for a football fan, such a treat to see two well-coached, explosive teams go at it. These are two, of the best teams in the NFL. So if it was rigged, they got it right in that sense. You got to give, as much as we all dislike Kansas City, we're all kind of wired to kind of hate them. You got to give Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid their flowers and their credit. The way they scheme plays open, the way that Mahomes makes plays, it's generational. It's something that you won't ever see a lot going forward. So you got to kind of give credit where it's due. They played to win, and they had a great game plan against a really good Philadelphia defense, but that should have never come down to that penalty in a million years, Chad. Ridiculous.
It was just so ticky-tack, and I mean, Greg Olson, who was the color commentary of tonight's broadcast for Fox Sports, he had to call a spade a spade. Why are you allowing the fate of a game
Right.
of this magnitude on a stage this large for all the marbles to come down to something like now, Zach? It'd be one thing if it was egregious, right? Like if it was clear and egregious, hey, throw that yellow laundry. But if it's ticky tack and it's negligible, like Greg Olson said, just let them play. Now you just, even if we'll give everybody the benefit of the doubt, take off the tinfoil cap, okay, uh, and say this was just straight up. Why would you want to give any fan out there or any media source or anybody any fodder for which to sink their teeth for the whole conspiracy angle? Like, you got to have better tact than that, better poise. A little disappointed, a lot of disappointed in tonight's officiating, especially down the stretch there.
And this is why they should still be forced to give press conferences, the officials after the game. I don't understand why coaches and players have to do that. They have to face the music, but officiating crews and referees who literally decide the game, and now they've decided the biggest game on the biggest stage, why they're never held accountable. I'd love to see the NFL implement that, make them, face the music and face some questions, but we're a far ways away, unfortunately, still.
Some of you may have just heard, but as Zach was talking and my dog Buckley heard the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, he yelped. In case you heard that yelp, I didn't want to tell him. I was keeping it under wraps. He overheard Zach. The yelp is from the depths of his soul. No, Chiefs? No, it's like that, Buckley. Guys, thanks for being with us tonight. It's, we're going about 2 hours later than we normally would. But again, it'd be poor form to go during the Super Bowl. You guys would be torn from watching the game and hanging out in the chat. Taylor jumping in. Appreciate you, brother. He says, next year is our year. We're coming. Go Broncos. That's right. Hashtag buck 'em. I mean, if we're talking about the Chiefs here, Zach, hashtag buck 'em.
Yeah, and I really wish Mahomes and Reed were not in the West, but this season's in the books now. They're the champions once again. It sucks, but All the Broncos can do is worry about the Broncos. They have a coach now that can go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and Andy Reid, who can help the offense maybe reach a certain comparable level. All we can do is focus on Denver and what they're building and leave Kansas City where they are.
Dave from Georgia, a legendary, mythical super chat superstar here at MHH, jumping in. Thank you, brother. He says, man, Chiefs fans are going to be insufferable now. Again, the MVP for the Chiefs, the chefs, will be a referee. Such a shame. Hashtag Broncos country. Yeah, it was nice to be able to say, Zach, in the face of the whatever it is now, is it 13 game winning streak the Chiefs have? What is it?
It's too many. I think
Too
it's
many.
13 or 14.
But still, during this period, it's still been nice to say, hey, Broncos still have one more ring than you do, Chiefs. Can't say that anymore. Now they're tied. Broncos have 3. Raiders have 3. Chiefs have 3. Chargers still goose egg. So anyway, but Dave, thank you for the Super Bro.
I think we all know what's what, though. I'm not big on blaming referees, but I think this Super Bowl, we can all put an asterisk next to the Kansas City record because that was, I think, handed to them on a silver platter. Ticky-tack call for sure, Chad.
Yeah, we're seeing all sorts of people sounding off in the stream about yeah, so unfortunately, Big Earn, yeah, the Eagles, they suck. They failed to deliver. Indeed. Gina saying, wow, disgusted by how that ended. Yeah, again, Zach, it's okay if it's egregious, right? Like if it's red-handed, you throw the flag, but it was ticky-tack. Zach, as we get into the chat tonight here, I don't want this to be like we did a few nights back where we titled our stream around a topic we didn't get to till like 5 minutes before we sounded off or signed off. And that is your thoughts, first and foremost, about the Denver Broncos' new head coach, Sean Payton, interviewing former New York Jets and Buffalo Bills head coach, longtime coordinator in Baltimore, Rex Ryan. Yes, he of the motion picture fame, who once starred in an Adam Sandler movie. What are your thoughts?
I forgot about that. Yeah, Rex Ryan, the actor. The Broncos are making me eat my words under Sean Payton. I got off the podcast a few weeks ago. I said they're never going to go after Brian Flores. They set up an interview with Brian Flores the next day. We talked about Rex Ryan. It might have been Thursday's podcast or last Monday. I said, no way. He's been retired. He worked for ESPN. He's been kind of a Broncos hater in recent years. No way they're going to talk to him. And sure enough, they're poking around Rex Ryan, Mr. Foot fetish himself for the Broncos defensive coordinator job. I don't know how it would work. I think he's too far disconnected from what the modern day NFL asks of defensive coordinators. I don't know that they need someone so bombastic and so cartoonish like Rex. I feel like maybe that'd be more of a distraction than any sort of plus, but Sean Payton is turning over literally every rock to find that gem on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, what's in, as I was doing my research on this today, writing up the article, what's important to remember is that Sean Payton's a Chicago boy. And what is the Ryan brothers, their dad, Buddy Ryan, what's he famous for? That vaunted 46 Chicago Bears defense that won it all in 85. And so it's never been a surprise to me to see Sean Payton gravitate towards, like in the past, it was Rob Ryan, who's never had the kind of leadership, cachet, competency that his brother Rex has had in terms of being viewed as a bona fide head coach candidate. But Rob Ryan worked under Sean Payton as defensive coordinator for several years in New Orleans, right before Rex got the Buffalo Bills head coaching job. So there is that tie, right? There is that connection. It makes sense, at least on that level. Gina giving her props, and thank you for the stars, Gina, to the Chiefs. She says that call or whatever should have never come to that. It wasn't enough from all angles, indeed. And thank you very much for the stars, my friend. It's great to see the ladies of MHH supporting, showing up, getting their voices heard as well. Colby with some stars too. Thank you, brother. He says, what a horrible holding call. At least ruin the end of the game. Yeah. Bad news. Also, Zach, on the topic of Rex Ryan, what defense does he bring to the table if the Broncos indeed end up hiring him? You think, oh, well, those Jets defenses, mostly 3-4,
Mhm.
but what he was running his most, I mean, all we can go off is really the last thing he did. And the last thing he did was in Buffalo. And that Buffalo defense, they ran 3-4 stuff, they ran 4-3 under stuff, they ran 46 stuff, just like the old man Buddy. So it will be curious if the Broncos were to somehow woo Rex Ryan out of retirement and out of the cushy confines, Zach, of media, what kind of scheme he would run and
Mhm.
whether or not the Broncos have the personnel suited to that.
Yeah, I feel like they're not a 4-3 team. They can make it work, but they'd have to really reorient a lot of their personnel. And I don't know, that might be a little more counterproductive. I can't talk tonight. The thing is about modern day coach, and this is why Rex Ryan scares me, is because is he modern day or is he stuck in 2012 and 2013 and the Jets' glory years of 2010? But every team can run a variation 4-3-3-4. I mean, a lot of teams run nickel now, so 5 defensive backs. I don't think that'd be the issue. My bigger thing is if Vic Fangio, who Sean Payton sniffed around, he turned down the Broncos, okay, but he recommended Sean Desai, who he worked with in Chicago. The Broncos talked to Desai already. Where has that interview gone? Is Vic Fangio's recommendation not strong enough? Was Sean Payton unimpressed? I just think it's really random to go from being honed in on Brian Flores and Sean Desai, two really good candidates, and then you're pulling a complete 180 and going after Rex Ryan and poking around that bear doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I do trust the process with Sean Payton.
Yes. Hashtag trust the process. Hashtag chase the chicken. Hashtag Buckham. YouTube, that's with a B. David Kilgore jumping in, one of our longtime Super Chat superstars. David, I got to tell you, it's been great seeing you around so much more lately, bro. Thank you for the super. He says, how do you guys see uh, the West, AFC West being next season, especially if Aaron Rodgers, Zach, goes to Las Vegas? First of all, do you even see that as a viable possibility, Rodgers landing with McDaniels in Vegas?
Speaking of the Jets, I think that's where Rodgers ends up. I think he goes to New York and they make a big move for him. I mean, he could go to Vegas and reunite with Devontae Adams. That would be pretty good on paper, but I'm not worried about Josh McDaniels in Vegas, and they have a lot to prove, similar to the Chargers as well. They have Justin Herbert, but what have they done? You mentioned the goose egg they have, and for good reason. The West, I see it being the same thing as it was, a day ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. It goes through Kansas City. And it's unfortunate, and we don't want to admit that. And we hate the fact that Reed and Mahomes are in the West. But until someone knocks them off, until they didn't just win another Super Bowl, it goes through them. The Broncos, I think they'll play them closer. I was burned on that prediction this past year. I think they could end that ignominious streak once and for all, but they have to just take baby steps to get back to competency, relevancy, be a winning record, a playoff team, and then maybe challenge Kansas City. But going forward, that is red all the way, the West.
Phil McLaughlin throwing down some generous stars on Facebook. By the way, happy belated birthday. Phil very recently had a birthday, so I'd sing you the song, Phil, but then we'd get copyright claimed, believe it or not. So happy birthday, big dog. He said that turnover hurt the Eagles. Good news, we are the only back-to-back Super Bowl winners in our division. Go Broncos, MHH for life. True, that's another one up the Broncos can have, but you really, and not to say that those aren't points of pride, they are. I just hate, Zach, that we're having to dig so deep into the ancient past in order to make ourselves feel better about where the Broncos stand within the AFC West. And this time last year, coming out of the Fangio era, the Locke era, Teddy, Flacco, all that stuff, we see Russ come in. We see the offensive coordinator of, at the time, back-to-back reigning MVP quarterback. And we're going, this is the year we can kind of feel a little bit more comfortable leaning, Zach, into our optimism. And both of us, I wouldn't say we went crazy, but we were very optimistic in some of our predictions. This time I'm keeping a little bit under my hat. I think it's going to be great. I think that in time, the Sean Payton hire is going to be just what Bronco fans hope for. Other than that, I think you just got to do the math. You just got to look at it and say, okay, from an analytical perspective, Zach, what is Sean Payton's history? What's his resume look like in terms of maximizing quarterbacks? Russell Wilson, this is a really weird situation. You can try to compare it to Breeze in that, two Hall of Fame caliber guys, but by the time they're crossing paths with Payton, and they're on two different trajectories. Breeze was still getting his career kind of started in many ways. I mean, on the brink of potentially losing it because of that shoulder. And Russ, he's going to be in his age 35 season. And Zach, he's coming off not only his career worst season. It'd be one thing if it was a career worst, but to then become a National Lampoon, you got to wonder how much all the memeing, all the clowning, all the vitriol, and all the just ridicule affected his juice. Affected his confidence as a quarterback, and what Payton can do to repair all those things. And a lot of that happens on an intangible level. The tangible stuff, I don't worry about it, but it will be interesting to see how that takes shape.
You're 100% correct. It's between here for me, between the eyeballs with Russell Wilson. He showed in the final game, the last two games really, that there is a lot left physically in terms of ability with Russ. It's a matter of his mental. And while we're on the subject of the vitriol and the memes, it's not even funny or clever, even remotely anymore. It is so cringeworthy and played out. Like if you watch the NFL award shows the other night when the host is getting up there and just saying, when Russell Wilson threw a duck, it's like, did you watch the last game? Did you watch the last couple of games? Is he the only quarterback throwing ducks? It's so old now. It's not even remotely entertaining. But to the previous question about the Broncos being the last back-to-back in the division, I think you're right. It's a lot of denial on all our parts. I mean, we all are programmed to dislike Kansas City. We all admit that it was a ticky-tack penalty that shouldn't have been called, but we all have to admit as well that the Chiefs are a damn good football team led by a Hall of Fame coach, a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, Mahomes can never take another snap and he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer for 5 years from the day he announced his retirement. He's that good. It's unfortunate they're stuck in the West, but we all have to kind of make peace with the fact that Kansas City really, really is that good. And that's no coincidence. Referees aside, why they're hoisting another Lombardi.
Nick, dude, thanks for the props, guys. If you want to support the cause, Bridge the Gap, you can get this hat that I'm wearing, bridgethegapmerch.com. Easy to find. And Zach, we have a very generous star comment here from Howie frickin' Day, throwing down some frickin' big boy stars in the frickin' house tonight. Thank you, bro.
Thank
He
you
says,
so
what's up,
freaking
fellas?
much,
We now enter the worst part of the year for football fans. I can't wait till we win the AFC West again. Well, let me turn that frown upside down, Howie, because we love this period on the NFL calendar. At MHH, this is the stretch that we look forward to, that we relish, that we have the most fun with, because look, yeah, there's no product on the field, right? There's nothing in that sense for the next few months. But what do we get in the meantime? We get, hey, what's going to happen with free agency? Who are the Broncos going to cut to create cap space? Who could they trade for? Who are they going to sign? Zach, then we get to the combine. We get to all the draft stuff. Who are they going to draft? And I know the draft this year and last year lost a little bit of its luster because the Broncos are without picks and whatnot in the premium rounds. But we love this time of year. So you continue sticking with us, Howie, which I know you will. And we'll get through this offseason together. We got a lot of bright stuff to look forward to in the future, but it'll be fun seeing how Sean Payton and George Payton put their heads together to rebuild this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. It sucks the Kansas City Chiefs won another title, but what takes the sting off that at least a little bit, and it's not that old of news, Sean Payton is the freaking Broncos head coach. And we firmly believe on this show, we were wrong about Nathaniel Hackett, but Sean Payton's a big step up, and we're firm believers he's going to turn this ship around. He's going to get the Broncos back to respectability, and I think they will compete. I don't want to say they're going to win or go toe-to-toe, but under Sean Payton's leadership with Russell Wilson, they will be able to at least match wits with the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see what happens when they go from there.
No doubt. George, good to see you, buddy. Keith, good to see you as well. Keith Brugman. There's a Brugman. I don't know if we ever settled that. Chris Chance is jumping in with the super chat. Thank you, brother. Says the Chiefs are now tied with the Broncos with Super Bowl wins. Chad, Zach, and Scott still the best in the business. You are very kind. Thank you, Chris. Love you, big dog. And, of course, your profile pic's pretty dope for this particular Star Wars nerd. Dave from Georgia jumping in again. Thank you, bro. He says, Buddy Ryan, this is Rex's father, is also remembered for taking a swing. Yes, hit the OC from his own team. Ha ha ha. Yes, indeed. And that kind of machismo, that I don't know what you would call it, did trickle down to Rex. Maybe not so much Rob, but Rex, man, he doesn't do it so much with the fisticuffs. Zach, I've never seen Rex, or I don't recall any kind of, you know, stories about him getting into fist fights, but he's used his mouth to create quite a few fights. I mean, all the Belichick noise back in New York. I'm not going to kneel down and kiss
The ring.
Belichick's ring and all that, which is rad to see. I love that kind of stuff. You do have to question. I agree with you, Zach. Like, if he were to come, who's the chief, right? Who's the boss? Too many cooks ruin the broth, so to speak. But if nothing else, Rex Ryan, one of the things he is most known for, his players love him. His players always play hard for him.
Yeah, this is the same coach that ends his meetings by saying, let's go get a bleep snack. I mean, he's a character.
Right.
He really is. He's one of a kind. And like Chad said, players love playing for him. He has that kind of Nathaniel Hackett vibe in the sense that he's very player friendly, but again, not afraid to drop the F-bombs, not afraid to get on his players. And the thing about Rex, he's kind of like a Wade Phillips. You don't want him as your head coach, but if you can get him as a DC, that's a coup. I mean, he's a great defensive mind, but I wonder, after so many years away from the NFL, it's a big switch to go to the media world, work for ESPN, sit behind a desk. The game has rapidly changed and rapidly evolved. Does he still have it? Is he still that defensive genius, or is he just getting by now on his name alone? That's what I question.
I agree. It's a concern. The only thing I would say that would give me some hope on that is he hasn't just been sipping the martinis right on the beach, eating his snacks. He has still been involved in the game in terms of analyzing it, having to be, you know how it is, like even for us, right? Like we cover mainly the Denver Broncos. That's what we do. But in order to fully be able to discuss the Denver Broncos, you got to have the full context of the league. That means you got to stay up on all the other games. For Rex Ryan, it's like that. It's like he covers the Broncos and all the other 31 teams at ESPN. So I would hope he's done some studying himself in the time that he's been in the media. By the way, Orange Bucky, that's a Peyton Manning bobblehead, and this D, I would pull it down to show you a little bit closer. Those OGs of you that have been with us a long time probably recognize this. This was stitched together. It's beads, okay? It's like a rad necklace by Diamond Rattler. Shout out Diamond Rattler made that. Sent it into MHH. So that is a Peyton Manning bobblehead for what it's worth. Michael Ronquillo, some stars. Thank you, bro. He said Derek Carr said he will not be traded to the Saints or other NFL teams. Ian Rappaport said the Raiders are going to release him, making him a free agent. So we'll see how that shakes out. You know, if the Broncos were in a different quarterback situation, I wouldn't hate the idea of pursuing potentially Derek Carr in a Sean Payton offense. I think it would be pretty killer, but he would be a fool not to want to work with a Sean Payton, but that's not going to happen. He's going to hit the market and go get, if he does end up getting released, Zach, Derek Carr will hit the market, go cash in with a big paycheck somewhere, and probably go on to do some good things. I think, you know, he's mostly had a bad rap as a Raider, gotten a lot of unfair shade thrown at him. He's a good quarterback. He's got his flaws. I think he just needs the right offensive mind to really take him to that next level. But he's a Pro Bowl caliber guy.
Yeah, I've always been a pretty big Derek Carr fan. You mentioned he's been getting the shaft by, you know, Broncos country, a lot of opposing fan bases. You can win with Derek Carr, and he holds all the cards. I don't know how many people follow that situation super close, but he has a no trade clause. So he's forcing the Raiders to release him and allow him to go sign on a fresh deal wherever he wants and not be, you know, beholden to the trade compensation. The New Orleans Saints, that's the only team he's visited with so far, though. So that's the front runner. And you know what? They started a quarterback named Andy Dalton, and they didn't do so well. I think Derek Carr he's like a step above the Andy Dalton. And you're not a game manager, but you can definitely win with him if you kind of massage the personnel around. So I'm happy he'd be getting out of the AFC and going to the NFC if that's the case.
727 mil jumping in with the super. Thanks, buddy. Saying heart hurts. Yeah, it's just kind of a sick, hollow feeling to see the Chiefs. You know, it would still be lame. Like if it were the Chargers, Raiders, it would still be lame. But there's something about the Mahomes Chiefs, and maybe it's just that competitive envy you have. It's like I think back to the 90s when I was a kid and how much I hated Michael Jordan. Okay, I hated him because he was so good and he always destroyed the teams I cared about in the NBA. And then you go on and in retrospect you look back, it's like you watch that doc that ESPN put out, Zach, during the pandemic and everything on Jordan. You can appreciate, and we'll probably feel that way about Tom Brady someday. Those of
Exactly.
us who have always loved seeing him lose Super Bowls. I mean, what's sweeter, Zach, seeing Tom Brady lose Super Bowls or Patrick Mahomes? It's only happened once for Mahomes, but
Ooh.
still.
Ooh, that's such a great point. I was going to say the same thing. It's, when you're facing a player that's so generationally good that is, you can tell is going to be a first ballot legendary player, and he's a rival. You hate him, but you got to appreciate the greatness as well. And I was never a bigger Giants fan in my life than I was in '07 for that undefeated season and that Super Bowl. I was rooting like hell against Tom Brady. And I did even in Tampa Bay as well. You just, like you said, it's that competitive, those juices start flowing where you freaking despise. I almost cursed. That's how much vitriol I still have toward Tom Brady, but you have to appreciate the greatness. And Mahomes, Andy Reid, they are certainly great.
Nick wants to know, did we see that Sean Payton was watching the Super Bowl halftime show? What do you think he was thinking? Shoot, man. I don't know. He was probably thinking about who he's going to talk to next or what decision is to be made at defensive coordinator. My guess, Zach, is that they talked to Desai, they've talked to Rex Ryan, a couple other people, and they're getting probably, now that the Super Bowl's in the books, pretty close to making a decision. And here's another thing to think about, like with Rex. Same thing with Sean Payton. He had to fulfill his obligation to Fox Sports. That's why he was making all the rounds this weekend on Radio Row, Super Bowl, all over the place, all the Fox Sports stuff. And not just Fox Sports, but the other stuff. Same thing with Rex Ryan. Contractually, for these guys that cover the NFL, a lot of them run, Zach, they renew or run through till the Super Bowl. Could be that they had, if he really wants Rex, it could be, and Rex wants the gig, could be that they had to wait till the Super Bowl's over to actually hire him. But if Rex Ryan, Zach, wanted to come back to the league, he would have to, I would assume, be demanding like top dollar for a coordinator. And it just so happens the Denver Broncos have very rich, in fact, the richest owners in the league who can afford to make their head coach the second highest paid coach in the league behind only Bill Belichick. And they could afford to make a defensive coordinator the highest paid if they wanted to. Now, I don't know that maybe he doesn't command that kind of, he doesn't have that cachet anymore, but you can't get him out of a cushy ESPN job for, let's just say, average defensive coordinator fare.
They can afford all the snacks that he would demand if that's who they want to hire. I just don't know how much veracity is behind the interest, and if we can really trust the reporting that's out there. It could have been just due diligence on Sean Payton's part, and it was never fully serious. We don't really know until we know more, obviously. But I think you're right. In the very, very short term, talking about tonight, I think Sean Payton was kind of riding out his obligations with Fox. The game was on Fox, and I'm sure he had a couple last minute assignments to do. But what I just realized, this is kind of an aside, who just won a ring? Melvin Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't like that. That kind
Riding
of
the pine, dude. Healthy scratch gets a ring. Keith,
Pays to be a mercenary.
Thank you for the stars, brother. Appreciate you. He says, can the Broncos do enough this offseason to bridge the gap between us and the Chiefs? I don't know. I just want to see this streak end, okay? Like, at least get a win over the Chiefs, and then I'll start having more in-depth dreams about, like, playoffs again and all that. Like, the Chiefs have become this mythical this mythical demon in the minds and hearts of the Broncos that they just own them. They own them, and that has to end. That has to end for the sake of, I mean, honestly, Zach, for the sake of the integrity of the AFC West.
Yeah.
That has to end. And so does the streak the Raiders currently have on the Broncos. I mean, we want to talk about ignominy. The fact that Josh McDaniels was not only taking the Raiders head coach job and then goes on to post a terrible season in year one, but he just so happens to sweep the Broncos. I mean, it's just disgusting. Nathaniel Hackett, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. So I think they can. But first things first, Zach, Broncos got to snap the streak, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I'm ready to get hurt again. I'm ready to predict the Broncos kind of matching wits with the Kansas City Chiefs and that streak coming to an end. And maybe my confidence is rooted in the fact you mentioned the Hackett coach Broncos and how of a train wreck this season was. Well, they were 27 down in the second game, I think it was, and they came all the way back and they lost, what was it, by 2 points or 3 points? It was a very close game. So I feel like if they can do that with the previous regime and the previous coaches, Sean Payton should be that little extra that puts them over the top. I could be wrong. I was wrong last year, but I think there's reason to have legitimate optimism this time around.
Jess, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, I want Quinn Ewers in 2024, regardless of Russ's play in 23. This is the Texas Longhorns quarterback. I don't know how much you know about this dude, but just the general idea, Zach, of the Broncos potentially using a first-round pick in that season or higher or lower, like a first or second-round pick. I don't know exactly what your stock will be by the time that rolls around if he declares, but the idea of the Broncos, I mean, seriously, Jess, think about this. If Russ in 2023, this coming season, turns the ship around under Payton and gives you like vintage Russ, you're wanting the Broncos to go spend one of their premium round picks on a quarterback? What do you think, Zach?
I'm not ready to go here. I mean, Jess, you can have your opinion, and I obviously can tell that you're not the biggest Russ fan. That's fine. There's reason for skepticism for sure. And we do have to look forward at who the Broncos' future could be at quarterback because Russ at going on 35, he's not, I don't think, a 10-year future type starter at quarterback. But let's just see how this year plays out a little more with Russ. I think Chad and I are two of the more optimistic analysts left when it comes to discussing Russell Wilson. I just, the comeback, the revenge tour could be put into full swing. There's no doubt in my mind he has the physical ability to get it done. If Sean Payton can correct the mentals between the eyeballs, I'm not going to jump ship just yet.
J-Boys, thank you for the super chat, big dog. He says, as long as we get a great DC, I want the Broncos to beat KC and win the division in 2023. I'm sick of Kansas City. I'm sick of the Kansas City refs, Chiefs winning thanks to the refs. Yes, I feel you. I just want Russell Wilson to turn it around. And I think Sean Payton, this is one of the things we talked about during the head coaching search when we looked at the candidate pool, Zach, and here's which coach or coaches has the resume to turn the ship around with Russ. And obviously Payton was number one on that. Harbaugh was probably number two. But why was that critical point number one? Well, you saw it tonight, guys, in the Super Bowl. You've got to have a true alpha at quarterback playing at the tip top of his game in order to really be a thing in the league. So that comes first. Without that, we've seen what it looks like when you have everything else, Zach, but that. I mean, ask Vic Fangio. Heck, even ask Vance Joseph. Ask, you can go through the litany, even Gary Kubiak in 2016. So get the quarterback fixed and figured out. Sean Payton doubled down on what he had said in the scrum, the little media scrum, Zach, after his initial debut press conference as Denver Broncos head coach. Got pulled aside from the local media scrum and was asked, hey, you're going to allow Russell Wilson's personal coaches into the building like the previous regime? He said, no, we're not going to do that.
Foreign to me.
Well, he was asked that multiple times during the rounds he was making on Radio Row, and he made it clear he doubled, he tripled, he quadrupled down on no, we're not going to do that. And he even said, look, I'll paraphrase him. He's like, look, when I was initially asked that, I honestly had never heard that before. Not just like generally speaking, a team letting a player's personal coach into the building and be engaged with team activities. But it sounds like he was unaware that that was happening with the Broncos last year. And so I said in that moment, I'd never heard of that. That's not going to happen here. After that, I did my homework, found out the true score on that, and turns out, yeah, not going to happen here.
I really like what reportedly Russell Wilson said to Sean Payton as well. He reached out. They had dinner recently the other day. It was the owner of the restaurant they were at. It was Russ, Sean Payton, Sierra, and Joe Montana. Joe Montana was there, Chad, for whatever reason. He was like the random add-on. Nice guest list, but they're getting to know each other. And Russ told Sean, apparently, I want you to coach me hard. And what that says is I'm cool with giving up Jake Heaps. I'm cool with giving up the office and the parking spaces, the entourage, the glamour, all of that. I want to be one of the guys. I want to be one of the 53, and I want you to ride me when I need to be ridden. And that's what all we could have asked for from someone like Russell Wilson, who is so front-facing, so his PR image is so manicured. For him to get that raw and real and to have that come to Jesus moment with himself, it's super important. So that's step number one.
Russ thought he was ready to call the shots. Russ thought he was ready to have Peyton Manning-esque carte blanche. Turns out he wasn't. And I think he's being real with himself and understanding I wasn't ready for that. I don't need that. What I need is true next level coaching. I want to be coached. And he campaigned hard for Sean Payton. He was blowing up Drew Brees' phone. He was campaigning through Latavius Murray to make sure Sean Payton knew Russell Wilson wants you in Denver. So I'm really I'm glad that he got his wish. Now it's time to go to work. Luke Ellis, whoa, dude.
Wow.
Helping
Thank
us
you,
keep
Luke.
the lights on here at MHH. Thank you, big dog. Very generous super chat. He says, just checking in to support. Thank you, bro. Tough to watch a Super Bowl get decided on a close call, and even worse, to watch KC continue to dominate. Breaking our losing streak to them will be a great day. Have a good week, fellas. You too, Luke. You too. You know, the only thing I could see, Zach, besides the Broncos rising up, that would start eating at the foundation of the Chiefs' empire, as it were, is Andy Reid's age and relative health. He's 64 years old. He's been a head coach in the NFL since 1999. How much longer do you think this cat continues to coach? He's got 2 rings now.
Yeah, apparently he didn't shoot down the notion of retiring. I don't know that he would. I just feel like football is all Andy Reid has. Even after his son tragically passed away years ago, Chad, he dove right into it was during training camp as well, and he just dove right into the nature of the beast, so to speak. Unfortunately, we can hold our breath, but I think Andy Reid and Mahomes, obviously, they're coming back for at least one more go around.
Exactly. That's my read on it is, hey, man, somehow, some way, all the toiling Andy did in Philly, close but no cigar. What was it? 3 or 4 consecutive NFC title game appearances. They finally advance. They lose to the old initial Tom Brady New England Patriots dynasty. Then he gets fired. He ends up in KC, lands on Mahomes, and wins a Super Bowl, loses one, misses out on the next one, and then he wins another one. He got that lightning in the bottle. He's a sick maniac when it comes to football, and I say that with nothing but respect. I say that as like props to you, dude. Like that's all he does. I can't imagine. He's getting up there. I just don't think it's going to happen this year. I think he goes, hey, I got 2 rings. All right, I got 2 now. That's cool, but I want to have a back-to-back. That's probably what. Now, if the Chiefs, and I'm going to bite my tongue as I say this, it's going to be hard to understand me as a result, but if the Chiefs, I can't do it. If the Chiefs do manage to win 2 in a row, all right, then I could maybe see him hanging up his clipboard, as it were.
Yeah, I know he's not super young, no spring chicken, but he's only, I should say, 64. Compare that to someone like Pete Carroll, who's 72, and he's still chewing gum and, kicking with the best of them as well. I don't think Andy Reid is hanging it up, going out on top. I think he has a few more seasons left in the old backpack.
Guys, we're going to keep it relatively short tonight, okay? mainly due to the fact that we got such a late start. So one last topic I want to get to. Well, let me see what this super chat from 19EHF wants to talk about. It's not exactly on the topic that I was thinking, so we'll grab this super and come back to it. Todd Ostendorf was asking about it earlier. Todd, appreciate you. Good to see you, bud. 19 says, with a very generous super chat, you can hate on the Chiefs and get mad about officiating calls. All teams this season had bad calls. Even the Chiefs had bad calls in this game. But you have to respect Mahomes and Reed with or without Tyreek Hill. Oh, no doubt, dude. There's no doubt here. It's a hateful respect. It's just like get him to the Greek, dude. What the content of what you said has made me hate you. But the fact that you did say it, showing those cojones, I respect you. So it's a hateful respect. All right. So it's kind of like that, Zach. That's how I view the Chiefs is it's a hateful respect. Tip your cap to them. Tip your cap to them. Just don't go out of your way, going overboard, trying to crown them. And no. That's not what this is about. The spirit of Sean Payton is what this is about. We don't want to see anyone in our division win anything. All right.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean you can't tip your cap and say, hey, respect, you got to the top of the mountain. But now, literally, the second that final gun sounded, turn the page.
That's such a smart point because that's exactly what Sean Payton's thinking. Probably, I don't know him, but watching the game tonight, it's that Mahomes is great, Andy Reid is great. I like watching good football and talented teams, but I don't like to see any of our rivals win anything, let alone the Super Bowl and let alone on a ticky-tack call. So 19 EHF, people could hate on you for this comment, but I think you're 100% right. And I said the same thing. I prefaced my remarks earlier. You got to respect Mahomes. You got to respect Reed. You got to respect what they do year in and year out, while also acknowledging this game should have never, ever ended on that holding penalty. It was egregious and it was ridiculous for that landscape.
What's the new Sean Payton hashtag?
Buck 'em.
Buck 'em.
Buck 'em
That's
all.
what I'm saying. Okay. Buck 'em. One more super chat. Jumping in from 19HF. You guys are the goats for podcasting this late. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Zach, people are wanting to know, hey, what's this about Sean Payton openly recruiting on social media Rob Gronkowski? Did you see that over the weekend? Him putting a tweet out. Well, I can pull it up if we need to, but it's a tweet of a Broncos jersey with the B crossed out and a G put there. So Broncos, all right, and then him saying, "Let the recruitment begin." How much teeth is there to this, or was this just all in fun?
See, it's things like this that make me doubt the Rex Ryan courtship, because I feel like now that the Broncos have someone who has such name recognition and notability as Sean Payton, they're going to be connected to literally everyone under the sun, including Rob freaking Gronkowski, who's retired for a reason. Even if there's legitimate interests in both sides, I wouldn't want the Broncos to sign Rob and get him out of retirement. They have a tight end of the future already in Greg Dulcich. I just can't believe I'm even entertaining this, Chad. But that's what comes with the territory. You're no longer a no-name team led by a no-name coach like Nathaniel Hackett. For better or for worse, the Broncos are in the main stage now under the limelight by virtue of having Sean Payton, and this comes with that territory, unfortunately.
Well said. With that, guys, we're going to call it for tonight. Thanks for staying up late to talk with Zach and I. It was a bitter result in Super Bowl 57, but it's time to buck 'em, turn the page, focus on 2023.
Yeah, it was a somber podcast, late start tonight. We were both rooting for Philadelphia. It wasn't to be. We got to just, 2022 season's over. We're all about 2023 now. We're on to the next year. So that was the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please be sure to follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod, the main account on Twitter as well at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and our producer who's on vacation still at Scout Kennedy. Follow him as well. If you haven't, go to huddleuppod.com and get your merch on. A lot of new, cool stuff we're rolling out, neat stuff. We want to share it with you guys. Check it out if you haven't done so. And also facebook.com/MileHuddlePod. Be sure you're liking that page and following that page. Guys and gals, if you haven't, go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that sweet, sweet merch each and every month. But if anything, please, please, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Heck yeah. Much love and respect to these great Super Chat superstars and Facebook supporters tonight. On YouTube, we start with Taylor, Dave from Georgia, David Kilgore, Chris Chances, 727 Mill, Jess, J Boys, Luke Ellis, 19 EHF, and then on Facebook, Howie Frickin' Day throwing down. Phil McLaughlin, Mike Ronquillo, Colby, Gina, Keith, much love and respect. Zach and I are back in the saddle tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. Can't wait to talk with y'all then and really start turning our focus to 2023. I expect the Broncos this week to start making pretty short work of announcing the hires because time to get to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's all, we can drown our sorrows tonight watching Kansas City win another title, but tomorrow, guys, we have to make a promise to each other. Let's turn the page, let's bury the film, and let's put our priority on 2023. It's going to be a much better year. Have a great ending to your weekend, great start to your week. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.